questions come from me. I'm still a little under the weather post-holiday season, so hopefully I won't sound too sniffly, but I wanted to take it a little easy on myself just in case. The first question I have is, what other oddities did you discover while looking for the most living presidents? Oh, thank you for that excellent question, me. I'm so happy to share with you what else I saw. Okay, so when I was looking to see how many presidents had all been alive at once, I noticed that there were a few times where we might have only had a single president at a time, and I just wanted an excuse to double check. Obviously, we started with 0 presidents, but I don't know if we can really count that era. So, also, obviously, we started with just the one, George Washington. John Adams, the second president, became the only president on December 17th, 1799, when George Washington died. It wasn't long until Thomas Jefferson was elected, and he was no longer the only living president. The next such occurrence didn't happen until July 31st, 1875, when Andrew Johnson died, making the then current president Ulysses S. Grant the only living president. Much like with John Adams, it was only for about 1 year, and then the next president, Rutherford B. Hayes, in this case, was elected. Herbert Hoover is the next solo president for about 58 days in 1933. Between the death of Calvin Coolidge and the swearing in of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The final time this has happened, as of this recording, was between January of 1973 and August of 1974, when Richard Nixon was the only living president following the death of Lyndon B. Johnson. Gerald R. Ford then took over when Nixon resigned the next year. Lastly, the longest-lived president, or I should say the person who became president and then proceeded to live the longest, was Jimmy Carter, who spent 47 years as a current and former president before his death in 2024. The runner-up, Herbert Hoover, at 34 years as a current and former president. Bill Clinton, who is still alive as of this recording, is at 33 years, and so could tie that record this time next year. Thanks again for that question, me. You're very welcome, me. I'm glad you liked it. My next question is there a good way to count palindromes? I like palindromes. As words and phrases, they're fun to read. A man, a plan, a canal, Panama. Especially as a kid, before you know that it's the same read forward or backward. That sense of discovery is just awesome. Numerical palindromes are also very fun, but I know a lot less about them or how to find them. Of course, I can give you the easy ones. I don't know if single-digit numbers count as palindromes, but I'm gonna say that they don't. The first 9 palindromes are, of course, the first 9 multiples of 11. 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66, 77, 88, and 99. And this pattern sort of follows for the 3-digit numbers. It's the first 9 multiples of 101 plus the first 9 multiples of 111 and 121 and so on up to 191. And you can sort of keep this up through the 4 and 5-digit numbers, but the list of values you have to keep shorthanding gets a bit obnoxious after a while. There has to be a better, mathier way to look for numbers like this. And now, to find out if that is true. Okay, yes, there is. I knew there had to be. Thank you, OEIS, or for the uninitiated, the Online Encyclopedia of Integer Sequences. It looks like the formula for counting palindromes was authored, at least to this site, in 1999, so I'm only about 27 years late to the party. Anyway, the equation itself is too mathy for me to explain very well. Basically, it takes the principle I was kinda swinging at earlier and uses a bunch of math terms to say that it's always the first 9 multiples of some number n repeated a number of times based on how many digits are in that set of numbers in which you are seeking palindromes. This conclusion leads me to believe that there are an infinite number of palindromes, since there is an infinite number of numbers, and the number of palindromes is only curtailed by the boundaries within which we look. Neat. What a fun equation to find and not understand even a little. Thank you, or/math, for having a simpler answer for me to read about. Cheers. And my last question today is, how many new planets do they visit in Star Wars, The Clone Wars, the TV series? Oh boy, alright. I had prepared this question just in case, after I did the original 9 movies list and the subsequent side movie list, but I didn't really know when I was going to use it. I guess that's now. As a reminder, the Star Wars saga has already been to Tatooine, Alderaan, both the Death Stars, Yavin 4, Hoth, Dagobah, Bespin, Sullust, Endor, Naboo, Coruscant, Kamino, Geonosis, Utapau, Kashyyyk, Maikito, Felucia, Ketoni Moidia, Salukami, Mustafar, Polis Massa, Jakku, Ilum, or Starkiller Base, Takodana, Hosnian Prime, Dakar, Aktu, Kantanika, Crate, Exegol, Sinta Glacier, Agent Kloss, Pasaana, Kijimi, Kefbir, Christophsis, Teth, Lamu, Wabani, Kafreen, Jeddah, Edu, Scarif, Corellia, Mimban, Vandor, Kessel, Severine, and Numidian Prime. That makes 47 different planets that we've already seen in Star Wars, plus 3 space stations. Now, normally, I would call out all of the repeated planets that are visited, but because of the episodic nature of this show, and the fact that it's animated, it actually returns to old locations frequently. Season to season, episode to episode, and even scene to scene, the Clone Wars can really bounce around from location to location. As such, I'm only going to mention the locations that are new to the Clone Wars, and I will only mention them the first time they are visited. Okay, here we go. The show begins with our main cast on or traveling to Rugosa, and we actually spend both of the series starting 2 episodes there. This pattern persists, at least until the second 2 episodes, where we go to the Kalida Nebula, our first nebula in the series. The planet hopping really takes off starting from episode 5, where we go from Rishi to Pathaui in episode 6, to Rusan in episode 7, and then to Rhodia in episode 8. In episode 11, we travel to Vakor and return to our 2-part storyline pattern. In episode 13, we see Maradun, and in episode 15, we travel to Orto Plutonia. For the first time in this show, we visit 2 places in a single episode, Iego and Melius Prime, both in episode 18. Our final destination, at least for season 1, is Ryloth, first seen in episode 19, which brings us to 58 planets, 3 space stations, and 1 nebula. Season 2 returns to a lot of old locations comes next in episode 18, followed finally by Florum in episode 22. That makes 64 planets, but we've still got 5 more seasons to go. Season 3's first new planet comes in episode 3 with Toydaria. Pantora follows in episode 4, but it is not until episodes 9 and 10 where we see the new planets Nalhutta and Raxus Secundus, respectively. Episode 12 shows us the mystical planet of Dathomir, as well as Sereno. Next comes our first and only new space station of the series, Mortis Monolith, from episode 15. Episode 18 introduces Lola Sayu, and episode 21 ends our season 3 list with Huasca. Up to 72 planets now, 4 space stations, and a nebula. Season 4 has a lot of new locations. We start on episode 1 on Mon Cala. Episode 5 takes us to Aline, and episode 7 takes us to the dark world of Umbara. Kairos follows next in episode 11, with Cygeria and Kadavo in episode 12, and Karlak in episode 14. Episode 16 sends us to Orondia, and the end of the season sends us to Karsite in episode 20, Stobar and Lotho Minor in episode 21, and Raydonia in episode 22. That's 84 unique planets visited, with 3 seasons to go. We start season 5 off in episode 2 with Onderon. We do see Ilum in episode 6, which I know we covered in the first of these lists, but this is the first time we've seen the surface of the planet unmarred by the First Order. Next up is Abafar in episode 11, Karita in episode 13, and Zanbar in episode 14. And that's it for season 5. 88 planets down, 2 seasons to go. Season 6 was a little weird, originally being released on Netflix after the show was cancelled by Cartoon Network. They visit Ringo Vinda in episode 1, Scipio in episode 5, and Bardata in episode 8. Episode 9 takes us to the moon of Sardasa Styx, and episode 10 goes to the moon of Obadiah. The season ends on a Yoda-centric story, where he seeks the knowledge to begin learning how to become one with the Force. This takes him to several special locations, including the Wellspring of Life, a planet with no known map coordinates, and Moraband, the ancestral home of the Sith, also known as Korriban. Season 7 only adds 3 new locations: Anaxis in episode 1, Skako Minor in episode 2, and Urbana in episode 9. So that brings us to 98 different planets, 4 different space stations, and 1 nebula visited by the characters of the Star Wars stories, up to this point anyway. If you'd like me to keep going with this and do the next TV series in release order, which would be Star Wars Rebels, I believe, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so very much for listening. If you would like to have your question answered in a video, leave it in a comment below this one. If you would prefer to ask your question a little more privately, you can email me your question at questionsandasmr@gmail.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more questions like these every week. Thanks again for listening. Goodbye for now.